If a radioactive spider bit you right this second, you would face a stark biological fork in the road. You would either wake up tomorrow with superhuman abilities, or your body would immediately begin shutting down from the inside out. The mechanical premise is simple. An irradiated arachnid pierces the skin, introducing an unknown, highly volatile, glowing substance directly into the human bloodstream. This specific biological hypothetical has been embedded in our culture since 1962, when writer Stan Lee and artist Steve Ditko first tested it on a teenager named Peter Parker. According to the lore, the radiation acts as a genetic catalyst. It triggers extreme muscular hypertrophy, heightens physical agility, and installs a precognitive threat detection system, the spider sense. Yet, in any real emergency room, a patient arriving with a radioactive animal bite presents a uniquely terrifying medical crisis. The comic book narrative equates atomic exposure with genetic enhancement, masking a brutal toxicological reality. To understand the actual threat, we have to look at the animal itself. Out of the roughly 40,000 spider species on Earth, a tiny fraction possess fangs strong enough to break human skin, let alone venom dangerous enough to harm us. When a medically significant spider does bite, the symptoms are severe. The venom of a female black widow induces latrodectism, causing intense muscle rigidity, spasms, and acute trouble breathing. Alternatively, a brown recluse, which often hides in the folds of bedding or the fabric of our clothing, deploys a venom that destroys cell membranes, leading to localized necrotic tissue death. In every documented case, spider venom operates strictly as a chemical weapon. It is measured in mere micrograms. It contains paralyzing agents and digestive enzymes, but it lacks the biological mechanisms necessary to carry or transfer DNA into a host organism. Because venom solely destroys tissue and cannot rewrite human genes, the entire mechanism for the comic book mutation must rely on the radiation, and radiation behaves very predictably in the human body. For the spider's venom to carry a radioactive charge, the animal would likely undergo neutron activation. This process would result in the venom emitting high-energy alpha particles directly into the victim's cells. These alpha particles do not neatly reorganize genetic code to grant new abilities. They behave like microscopic shrapnel, physically punching holes through the DNA double helix and shattering the structure. We have extensive historical data on this process. Survivors of catastrophic nuclear events, like the meltdown at Chernobyl, demonstrate that massive cellular damage results in aggressive cancers, total immune system collapse, and death. Even if the DNA survived and attempted to mimic a spider's traits, the physics of the human frame present an immediate bottleneck. To stick to a wall using the weak van der Waals forces utilized by spiders, 40% of a human surface area would need to be covered in microscopic adhesive hairs. Swinging through a city creates another insurmountable physical barrier. Pendulum dynamics dictate that reaching the bottom of a web swing generates roughly 9 Gs of force. Subjecting human arms to that load on the anchor point repeatedly would instantly snap ligaments and rip joints from their sockets. To put 9 Gs in perspective, highly trained fighter pilots wearing specialized compression suits frequently pass out when subjected to this level of gravitational force.
Slowing down. The human musculoskeletal system is built for endurance, not the explosive hydraulics or tensile strength of an arachnid. Our biology and the laws of physics are wholly incompatible with the mechanics of the comic book. While human tissue cannot mutate to overcome these physics, human engineering is actively solving the problem. Researchers at institutions like MIT have already developed prototype climbing gloves that harness those same van der Waals forces to support a person's weight on glass. The tensile strength issue is being addressed on laboratory benches and in glassware worldwide. Companies are genetically modifying bacteria and even creating transgenic goats to artificially produce proteins that mimic the elasticity and strength of spider silk. To manage the physical forces that would break bones, the military is continually testing powered exoskeletons designed to absorb impact and deliver explosive, augmented strength. We cannot rewrite our genetic code to become spiders. Instead, material scientists and biomechanical engineers are steadily building Spider-Man from the outside in.
But if we strip away the futuristic engineering and return to the moment of the bite, the medical reality is bleak. Consider a worst-case scenario, a spider injecting venom rendered as radioactive as polonium-210. This animated timeline chart plots human physiological symptoms on the vertical axis against elapsed time and absorbed radiation dose, measured in grays, on the horizontal axis. Within the first hour, the sharp pain of the initial pinprick is completely overshadowed by heavy nausea as the irradiated venom circulates. By day 1, the body has absorbed a dose of 3 grays. The timeline shows a severe symptom spike here. The patient experiences sudden hair loss, profound confusion, and the onset of acute clinical radiation sickness. Tracking the exposure to day 7 reveals the fatal conclusion. The absorbed dose reaches 23 grays, triggering massive systemic organ failure. Once an individual absorbs radiation past the 8 gray mark, modern medicine exhausts its options. The damage to the cellular structure is absolute, and survival rates drop to 0. A bite from a highly radioactive spider is not an origin story. It is a rapid, irreversible countdown to a toxicological death. Suppose you somehow survived the biology and possessed the powers. The physical survival immediately gives way to a psychological toll. Maintaining a secret, high-stakes double life correlates strongly with severe stress disorders, chronic anxiety, and debilitating insomnia. An elite athlete requires up to 10,000 calories a day just to maintain standard performance. A vigilante subjected to constant blunt force trauma, concussions, and nightly combat quickly collapses under the weight of chronic fatigue and physical breakdown. Then there are the logistics. Continually replacing high-tech gear and synthetic webbing costs thousands of dollars a month, alongside the perpetual threat of lawsuits for property damage and operating outside the law. The science proves the physics are impossible, and the bite is a death sentence. Yet the icon of a lone figure swinging across a sprawling city endures. It resonates because it isolates the human desire to take on immense responsibility and do good, regardless of the personal cost. Knowing the reality of the radiation, the physical limitations of the human body, and the crushing psychological weight, if you saw that glowing spider descending from the ceiling, would you still offer your hand? Or would you wait for the engineers to finish the suit?